Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel, The Sarthak Show, where we discuss about tech, career, product, and life. And today we have a very special guest with us, Tanya. She's working as a product manager at Amex, which is American Express, and she has done various positions at different companies. And today we will deep dive into her story, her life journey, what has been she up to, or what are the challenges that she faced to land at this position right now. So thank you so much for Tanya for joining in for this podcast and showing your interest and sharing your story. Can you share a little bit about yourself and maybe how's your journey so far?
Sure, Sarthak. First of all, thank you so much for inviting me. And, I would love to be a part of this podcast and, getting to know my audience and the audience to get to know me. So
Mm-hmm.
I think, thank you so much once again.
Yeah.
So to start with, I did so like every second person of my age, I did engineering. I did my BTech. And incidentally, I was actually a bioinformatician. So,
Okay.
had I pursued that field, I would be working on some drug for corona probably by now, but
Mhm.
it just didn't work out.
Yeah.
Well, after my BTech, I joined Accenture.
Mm-hmm.
And most people get into coding, software engineering right from the beginning when they pass out from their engineering.
Mm-hmm.
But luckily, I worked as a business analyst with Accenture as part of their social media marketing team.
Okay.
So, and this is like year 2012, where social media is just pinging your friend on Facebook or playing Farmville. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
the millennials, I don't know if they would be able to relate or not, but yeah, that's all social media was about. But
Yeah.
that's where I started to learn about how analytics is done, how social media listening, analyzing, reporting, all of that, sentiment analysis, stuff like that. So it was pretty interesting, in those times, and I got to learn a lot.
Mm-hmm.
After I think 1.5 to 2 years, I wanted to go ahead and do further studies.
Mm-hmm.
And my dad is an MBA. He was a gold medalist in his time. So all along, I knew I wanted to do MBA
Okay.
as
Talent
well.
runs in the family.
Yeah, he is talented. I don't know, but yeah. And then I went on to do my MBA from XIMB,
Mm-hmm.
Bhubaneswar, and it was a full-time 2-year course. I think one of the best years of my life because you stay in a hostel, you get to make lifelong friends, and
Mm-hmm.
that's where I found my husband as well.
Okay.
So it's pretty special.
Mm-hmm.
After my MBA, I was placed with ICICI Bank. There's a funny story. I actually never took any finance subject in the 2 years of my MBA degree,
Okay.
and I started working in a bank. So it was hilarious actually,
Yeah.
but it just happened, and I was put in one of the teams where I had to. So I was a relationship manager with the large corporate groups, so
Okay.
1,000 crore plus revenue companies, and I was sort of selling them LCs and BGs, which is like lending products.
Okay.
And I right away I knew this is not something for me. This
Mm-hmm.
is not my space. I don't like it. I don't understand finance. And I started pestering the HR, and I said that any opportunity open in the bank, I'm ready to go. Just
Mm-hmm.
give me that. And I think after a couple of months, 2 or 3 months, I was shifted to the product profile.
Okay.
So this is right where my product journey started.
Okay.
And back then I did not even know, but even while doing MBA, the product management field per se was not very popular.
Right.
Nowadays we see a lot of awareness around product management. What is it? What it entails? There are so many courses, diplomas, and even mentorship going around on LinkedIn and otherwise. But back then, people did not understand fully what product profiles are. The only product profiles that actually existed were with Facebook, Google, and the Silicon Valley companies, product based companies in the US.
Right.
So this was pretty new and pretty upcoming, and I think I really enjoyed the way I used to work on problems. And since I was working with a huge bank, one of the biggest banks in India, it
Mm-hmm.
gave me that exposure of working with different stakeholders, so legal teams or compliance teams, marketing, and then there was this treasury. So so many new things that you get to learn, and there are so many stakeholders you can talk to, and then there are so many features, and you're working on a daily basis. So I
Right.
thoroughly enjoyed that stint, and that's where I actually built the foundations of product management.
Mm-hmm.
And post that I worked with a couple of more companies like Future Group. So that was the only non-fintech stint I had.
Mm-hmm.
But Future Group, as we all know, did not really survive, and I knew that it was time to jump ships. So we moved back from Mumbai to North Delhi NCR,
Okay.
and I joined RBL Bank here.
Mm-hmm.
I was with their credit cards team for a couple of years, and then I went to Home Credit, and I was working on their mobile app for international clients. So, multiple countries like Southeast Asian countries like Vietnam and India, geography, China, Russia, and all of that.
Oh, okay.
And then post that, recently, like I said, almost half an year back, I joined Amex,
Mm-hmm.
and so this has been my journey so far. And I have worked in all walks of product management, right from starting as a business analyst, requirement gathering, to writing DRDs, PRDs, getting third party integrations done, working with APIs, working with the tech side of things, even infra for a bit, because I was in a TPM, a technical product manager role at Future.
Okay.
So, seen it all, done it all, and right now here I am.
Yeah, I think a very awesome journey, and it would be very, very fruitful for the audience to directly listen from your all kinds of experiences, because the learning that you're going to share right now will be coming from like a cumulative bunch of experiences from different companies and different positions, how things work in over here. But yeah, I think it's a very fantastic journey that you have shared so far. And I understand like your transition to product, but what was the one motivation that you moved towards it, or like how did you got to know about this profile, or like was it something that you researched for, or you aspired for, or is it something like your mentor suggested? Was it like just a destiny in place? So how was that story?
Yeah, Sarthak. So I think, for this, we need to go back when I was in high school. I actually, so for a couple of years, I did my high schooling in Nigeria. My dad had his own business there, and, we all shifted, there for a couple of years.
Mm-hmm.
So I was with this, Indian African school, like, all my friends were NRIs. And there was like a lot of cross cultural, I would say dilemma. Like I was like this new big kid, and if you have seen enough teenage TV series, you'll know how you're bullied when you're new in
Right.
high school. So I actually experienced all of that sort of, and I in fact topped my grade 10 CBSE examinations. I was in a CBSE school, and I actually topped. So
Okay.
that's where that gave me that confidence of working hard and achieving something.
Right.
So I realized that if I really put my mind to something, I can actually overcome all the difficulties, and I can uh, uh, overcome it, and come out as a winner. So I started working harder, I think, after that point in my life. And once I came back to India, even though I did not crack like a huge rank in IIT JEE or anything like that, I was in a pretty average private college. I was in JP. I don't know if people know about it. It was there in Solan in Himachal. So I knew that whatever I do, I'll do it with my fullest, my passion.
Mm-hmm.
So I was a gold medalist in my BTech. So
Oh,
even though
excellent.
it was not IIT, I tried to make the best out of what I'm getting. So
Right.
all throughout my journey, whatever I get, I sort of just try to make it as good as possible. So
Right.
when in ICICI I was given the relationship profile, I actually stopped taking that, as a rule that, whatever is given, let me just make the best of it. Because I realized that this does not align with the values or the kind of, uh, you know, uh, things that I relate to, right? I cannot just talk to a CFO, in terms of accounting terms or in balance sheet terms. I'm just not that person, right? I'm more of a salesperson, or more of a problem solving person, or more of a tech person.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where I knew that, probably the right field for me would be where there is a right mixture of all of these qualities, marketing, sales, probably a bit of analytics and problem solving and tech.
Correct.
And that's how I knew that this is the profile for me, because this profile, product management, it sits right in the middle of all of these.
Correct.
You get to talk to stakeholders, you get to work on problems, you get user interviews, you get a lot of exposure with different stakeholders in your teams. And by now you must have realized I love to talk to people, right?
Yeah, right.
So it even satisfied that. So stakeholder management is one of my favorite aspects of product management.
Mm-hmm.
So that's how I knew that, this is where I can actually make a difference. And it's not only that, there's a role that pays you well, or okay, you're okayish with it. It's also how you can give back, right?
Mm-hmm.
Give back into what you're doing.
Correct.
And a couple of years ago, I realized that, in fact, I realized it. So ICICI was still okay, and I was still finding my foot in the role, and in the space. But then, as and when I shifted, and I started growing in this career, I realized that there is a lot of aspiring product managers that would need those guidance. They do not exactly know what the field is all about, and they are just getting into it, maybe looking at glamorous salaries,
Mm-hmm.
or those really really popular product managers on LinkedIn with high profile YouTube channels, and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
But there is so much more to it. It's
Correct.
always like building products that are making an impact to people, so
Right.
customers at the end of the day, right?
Right.
So nobody talks about that customer empathy or that relatability as a consumer yourself.
Mm-hmm.
So I really like that aspect of this entire role, this entire profile, that if I am, let's say, a PM at Big Basket,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm also a user, right? So I exactly know what are the pain points. If the checkout is not smooth, मैं भी गाली दूंगी, right? उसको तो मतलब वो PM को ही गाली लग रही है. So
Yeah.
then that you have to work on this aspect.
Right.
And similarly with fintech, with lending products, I remember I was with Home Credit, and we were working on a journey where we are actually giving out loans, small loans, to people who are rejected by bigger companies, bigger banks, and they do not have a very great credit history or credit score that they are eligible for getting those lending amounts from different companies.
Right.
So there was this guy who needed support to buy a phone for his uh, daughter, because COVID, right, and all the government schools were closed, so
Mm-hmm.
they were taking online classes, so they needed that money for that appliance, right, or that gadget.
Right.
So then you're working on something which is actually making an impact,
Right.
down there. So I just feel that it's imperative that you either bring value to the products that you're working on.
Mm-hmm.
It should not be only for salary or your LinkedIn profile. I
Correct.
mean, it has to be so much more. So
Yeah,
yeah.
that is so true. I think I totally agree on every front. For me as well, this profile has been very exciting, and I get to taste everything from marketing to UX to tech to analytics and every other field. So someday I'm talking to my legal team, someday I'm talking to my UX designers and everything. So you get a taste of every other field and other options right there, and it makes the best career choice for me and a lot of other folks. But as you mentioned, I have been seeing that people who are motivated towards this profile or understanding or going towards this profile have for the wrong reasons, or maybe not for their motivations have not been in the right place, whether it's salaries or whether it's just the fame that you get. But the reasons should be right, that you are the advocate of the user at that moment, or you are pushing it for the product you're giving out to the society, the better product. And definitely that should be my motivation, because that's that's enough gratification for me. Whenever something that I have built out and my family or friends are using it, I just love it, and I get that sense of feeling, yes, I have built that, that confidence in saying that, or that there is a difference when it comes when you are building good products and when you are shipping out different things, right? So yeah, I think it's the best profile, but if you have the right intentions and right motivation, then it's much more bigger and better what you see or what you will learn about. So yeah.
Totally agree, Sarthak. Yeah.
Yeah, and moving on from here, based on your different experiences of various other firms, on different profiles, different teams, and everything. So, what are the various stark differences that you see when maybe like at PM profile itself from
Mhm.
different companies? So, how can it vary, let's say, from startup to MNC, or maybe from team to team?
Mhm.
How these things work?
Yeah. So it's a very valid question, in fact. So, to tell you from my own experiences, so, actually, I don't know if I should say this, but the role product manager is pretty abused in the market.
Mm-hmm.
And our Indian companies have made sure that, they don't disclose exactly what you're getting into with their very, very, maze like JDs, and,
Mm-hmm.
the HRs are not even clear. And, even after interviews, you are still thinking whether I'm a product marketing person or a technical product manager or business analyst. Matlab, what am I getting into, right?
Got it.
So let me just, have a couple of roles that I have worked into.
Mm-hmm.
So I have worked as a business analyst, which is like a starting point where you should start your product journey as.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's a product manager,
Mm-hmm.
which is everything about a product, right from its conceptualization to pushing it out of the door, to following the metrics, and how the product is performing, and even setting sales targets for your sales team, or just to monitor the progress of how
Okay.
how your feature has been performing. So all of that is product management.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's a profile called technical product manager. So this person is typically between your scrum teams, your developers, and sometimes your business, or sometimes even business product managers. So
Okay.
this person is mainly responsible for the technical aspects of your product. So it could be what kind of APIs would be used, or what kind of integrations would happen, or whether it will be like which code base to use, or how technically feasible a certain integration is or not. And sometimes even looking at the infra side of things, that for example, if you're working on a system, then you're figuring out how many transactions per second, how's the latency like, or
Mm-hmm.
what's the hit rate, or what's the downtime. And sometimes you also get to work with cloud companies like your cloud partners, AWS or Google Cloud. And then you need to figure out that which servers would be best suited for your product, your app, or your website. So
Right.
that's generally a TPM, or a technical sort of role. And then there's this product marketing role, where which I have also done back in one of the stints that I had. So this role is typically, this is the most abused one, I would say, because here you are conceptualizing the product. So when I was doing this, I'll tell you what all I did. I
Okay.
thought of what the product would be,
Okay.
who the partners would be, negotiating the SLAs and the commissions with the partners,
Mm-hmm.
onboarding the partners legally, all those contract signing and stuff like that. Once they are onboarded, then doing whatever a product manager does, yeah, requirement gathering, getting sign offs, creating wireframes, giving those requirements to the developers, getting it developed in sprints, testing it, UAT, launching it, and then setting your own sales targets, reporting those numbers to your leadership, getting galis in ki number क्यों नहीं हो रहा है, also sending out marketing material, so emails, SMSs, whatever marketing brochures, or whatever collaterals you need to create,
Mm-hmm.
content writing, all of that. And also, when the product does not perform, to shut it down, scale it back, and move on to your next product. So this generally is a product marketing profile, one of the meaty roles in the
Mm-hmm.
industry, but one of the most abused ones by the startups, because especially by e-commerce startups, because that's where you are a mixture between a category manager, a
Mm-hmm.
product manager, and uh, a PO. So the
Okay.
next role that I'm coming to is a PO role, which is a product owner role.
Mm-hmm.
It's a very agile specific role where you are leading a Scrum team. Scrum team is generally a couple of developers, some QAs. Sometimes there is a agile champion as well, who's just setting up those daily stand-ups and planning and all those meetings for you,
Mm-hmm.
and planning grooming and show and tell sort of a thing.
Okay.
And then, as a PO, your work is to collaborate with different stakeholders, make sure all the requirements are in place, the user stories are there in your Jira or whatever software you're using. And then, testing out those user stories, closing them, and then moving on to your next sprint. So, sprint planning, user story writing, feature writing, and also sometimes working as a release train engineer, which is
Mm-hmm.
pretty agile specific, where you're rolling out features in agile fashion. You're making sure everything is done in time, so you're also like sort of a project manager. So
Okay.
a lot of these B2B roles also have this project management element to the PM roles, where
Mm-hmm.
you're end to end strategizing what's my 2 month, 3 month, 5 month, 6 month goal, communicating it to the leadership that, hey, hey, these are the 7 features that we are planning to do in the next couple of months, and this is the kind of impact that we are seeing. It could be a reduction in, let's say, some errors, or it could be a reduction in customer complaints, or increase in revenue, or getting more customer base added to your existing, set of things. So there are a lot of things that you do as a PM. So
Right.
one thing that I would really suggest all the aspiring PMs and as well as people who are giving out interviews is to get a very very specific clarity with your hiring manager as to what exactly will your role would be.
Okay.
And if things are not clear, then you should get them in written, that exactly what all will you be working on.
Mm-hmm.
Because sometimes what happens is that, suppose you are not a very technically sound person, you have not been a developer in the past, or you have come from a different background. So
Mm-hmm.
it gets very difficult for you to manage in those profiles where that kind of in-depth technical knowledge is necessary.
Right.
And then you realize it's a fitment issue and you start seeing outside. So
Mm.
please just be very sure that, when you're getting into a role, what exactly it entails and how you fit into that role is very imperative.